What if I told you that every moment of your suffering, every failure, every betrayal, every tear you've ever shed, wasn't a curse, but a test, a brutal, merciless trial designed to forge you into something unbreakable? Look around you. Most people are shackled by their emotions, slaves to their impulses, drowning in self-pity and weakness. But not you. Not after today. Because in the next few minutes you will learn the one thing that separates the weak from the indomitable. The ancient philosophy that has stood the test of time. The iron discipline that built emperors, warriors and thinkers who refused to kneel before life's cruelty. The philosophy of the Stoics. And here's the truth, no one dares to tell you. Life will crush you if you let it. It doesn't care about your excuses, your pain, or your dreams. But those who wield the principles of Stoicism stand tall amidst the storm. They do not beg for easier lives. They demand stronger minds. Marcus Aurelius faced the weight of an empire. Seneca walked through fire, and Epictetus endured the shackles of slavery. Yet none of them broke. They became legends. And so can you. But only if you're ready to silence the chaos within, embrace the struggle, and become the master of your fate. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you won't just understand Stoicism, you will feel it coursing through your veins. And before you go, subscribe. Not because I'm asking, but because deep down, you know this is the knowledge you've been searching for. Now, let's begin. Why pain is your greatest teacher. Pain, the great equalizer. No man escapes it, no woman is spared. It doesn't matter if you are rich or poor, strong or weak. At some point, life will bring you to your knees. And when it does, most people crumble. They cry out, they beg for mercy, they curse the heavens for their misfortune, but not you, not after today. Because today, you will understand that pain is not your enemy, it is your greatest ally. It is the fire that forges, the hammer that shapes, the relentless force that separates the weak from the unbreakable. Marcus Aurelius, a man who bore the weight of an empire, wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Do you understand what that means? The very thing you see as your greatest struggle is, in fact, the key to your transformation. The obstacle is not in your path. The obstacle is the path. And once you see pain for what it truly is, it can no longer control you. But here's the hard truth. Most people run from suffering. They drown it in distractions, numb it with pleasure, avoid it at all costs. And in doing so, they never grow. They never evolve. They remain trapped in their weaknesses, shackled by their emotions, ruled by their fears. But the Stoic does not flinch in the face of hardship. The Stoic welcomes it. He does not pray for an easy life, but for the strength to endure a hard one. Seneca, who stared death in the face more times than most men can fathom, once wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Do you feel weak? Do you feel lost? Then good, because it means you have the chance to grow, the chance to transcend, the chance to become something far greater than you ever imagined, but only if you choose to embrace the fire rather than flee from it. There is a reason the greatest men in history were forged in suffering. The Spartans trained in agony from childhood. The samurai embraced death before they even stepped onto the battlefield. Epictetus, a slave who had every reason to hate the world, instead became one of the greatest Stoic philosophers to ever live. Do you think that happened by accident? Number it happened because suffering, when embraced, breeds invincibility. You will be broken, you will be tested, and in those moments, you will have two choices: to collapse like the masses or to rise, to scream at the universe for your misfortune, or to look it dead in the eyes and say, "Is that all you've got?" Because the moment you stop resisting pain, the moment you lean into it, is the moment you realize nothing can touch you anymore. And that is why you need Stoicism. not as a theory, not as a collection of quotes, but as a way of life. Because life will not stop throwing its punches. It will hit you where it hurts. It will rip away what you love. It will bury you beneath the weight of suffering. But the man who has mastered himself, the man who has made peace with pain, he walks through fire and does not burn. He stands in the storm and does not waver. He faces the abyss and does not blink. And that man, you, will emerge from the trials of life not as a victim, but as a force to be reckoned with. So tell me, are you ready to stop running? Are you ready to become unbreakable? Then stay with me, because this is just the beginning. And before we continue, subscribe, because this is the knowledge they don't want you to have. Now let's move forward. The art of becoming unshakable. Your emotions are the chains that keep you enslaved. Every time you react without control, when you lash out in anger, crumble in fear, or drown in sorrow, you hand over your power to the world, and the world is ruthless. It will provoke you, manipulate you, break you. It will throw insults at you, betray you, humiliate you, just to see if you will snap. And most people do. They let their emotions rule them like mindless animals, completely at the mercy of their impulses. But not you, not after today. Because today, you will understand the one truth that separates the weak from the strong, the fragile from the unshakable. He who controls his emotions controls his destiny. This is the essence of Stoicism, not suppressing your emotions, but mastering them. Marcus Aurelius, the last great emperor of Rome, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Understand this deeply. The moment you learn to command yourself, nothing and no one can ever command you again. But here's where most people fail. They think strength means acting cold, emotionless, distant. They believe mastering emotions means burying them, pretending they don't exist. This is foolishness. The Stoic does not deny his emotions. He understands them. He sees anger, fear, and pain for what they truly are, signals, not masters. When someone insults him, he does not react like a fool. He observes. When life tests him, he does not break. He adapts. When his heart is heavy with grief, he does not run. He stands firm, unshaken. Seneca, a man who faced exile, betrayal, and the constant threat of execution, once said, "If you are ruled by your emotions, you are at the mercy of a madman. And that madman is not the world. It is the untamed beast within you. You can either chain it, or it will chain you. And the moment you understand this, you will feel something awaken inside you, something ancient, something powerful, a force that has always been there, waiting for you to claim it. Because here's the ultimate test. Life will push you to your limits. It will rip away the things you love. It will throw storms into your path. And in that moment, you will either crumble like the masses, or you will rise. You will either scream at the heavens, or you will smile in defiance. You will either drown in weakness, or you will stand like an immovable force, a man who cannot be bent, broken, or controlled. This is the power of the Stoic. The man who walks through chaos untouched. The man who sees pain and remains calm. The man who has learned the ultimate secret. Nothing has power over you unless you allow it. And now, it's time for you to step into that power. But before we continue, subscribe. Not for me, but for yourself. Because this is not just a video. This is a war against everything that has ever held you back. And if you stay until the end, you will never see the world the same way again. Now, let's move forward. The Stoic art of controlled speech. A weak man speaks without thinking. A strong man thinks without speaking. In a world where everyone is desperate to be heard, where people waste their energy arguing, complaining, and revealing their every thought, silence becomes the ultimate weapon. The Stoic understands this. He knows that words once spoken can never be taken back, that a single moment of weakness, A single careless outburst can ruin a reputation, break a bond, or expose a vulnerability. That is why the wise man holds his tongue while the fool rattles on. Marcus Aurelius, the last great emperor of Rome, wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion." Do you understand the depth of that? The moment you stop reacting to nonsense, the moment you refuse to waste words on the insignificant, you gain something that the weak will never have: absolute control. The world loses its power over you because you no longer play its game. The insults, the gossip, the noise, they become meaningless. You do not engage, you do not explain, you do not defend. You simply observe, calculate, and move in silence. But here is where most people fail. They mistake silence for weakness. They believe that if they do not respond, they are conceding, that if they do not argue, they are losing. This is why they never rise above mediocrity. They do not understand that true power does not announce itself. A lion does not roar before it strikes. A storm does not ask permission to destroy. The greatest emperors, warriors, and thinkers of history moved in calculated silence. Seneca, a man who advised rulers and navigated the treacherous corridors of power, once said, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The same applies to speech. He who speaks too much says nothing of value. The man who controls his words controls his fate. When you refuse to engage in meaningless battles, when you stop wasting energy on proving yourself to people who don't matter, you become untouchable. People will wonder what you are thinking. They will fear what you might do, because the less you reveal, the more they assume, and assumption is far more powerful than any explanation. So I ask you, do you have the discipline to stay silent when your emotions scream to be heard? Can you resist the urge to justify, to argue, to defend? Can you walk away from foolishness without feeling the need to prove your worth? Because this is what separates the weak from the unbreakable. A man who cannot be provoked is a man who cannot be controlled. And once you master this, you will move through life with a presence that demands respect, not because you seek it, but because it becomes undeniable. This is how the Stoic commands his world, not with noise, not with desperate displays of power, but with an unshakable stillness that forces everyone to take notice. And if you've made it this far, then you are ready for what comes next. But before we move forward, subscribe, because the deeper we go, the fewer will follow. Only those strong enough to embrace this path will remain, and you are one of them.